Hello, everyone, and welcome to our little lunch and learn today that is homelessness in a whole new light. My name is Brandon. For those who don't know, I'm Veahafta's COO and VP of Development, and we're excited to be with you today, which will hopefully be the first of many opportunities for us to give you a deeper insight into what's going on at Veahafta and the work we do. This is something we wanted to build for our supporters. All of you in one way or another support the agency, and we really are thankful for that. And it's important to us that we have opportunities to share what you're supporting and the impact you're making and what's going on in our minds to make the decisions we make. So today also happens to be a World Homelessness Day, World Homeless Day. So this is an annual day where we recognize people who are unhoused and the barriers and instabilities that they face. For the last few years, actually, Veahafta has also participated by lighting up the CN Tower. So if you saw as you came in on the into the event, and also if you look over here and you'll look out tonight through your windows, you're going to see, or if you're downtown, that the CN Tower is lit in Veahafta's colors, and that's the blue, green, and yellow. So you're not here to listen to me. I am not an expert on homelessness. You're actually here to learn from someone who really has the credibility to speak to such a thing. It's my pleasure to introduce Marni, our VP of Programs, who's going to be sharing some insights, answering questions around the street needs assessment, which we're going to explain what that is in a moment. We're keeping this very relaxed. It's an opportunity for me to speak with Marni, ask some questions that we've built. And at the end of the presentation, you'll notice at the bottom of your screen, there's an opportunity to leave a section called Q&A. And you can post any questions you have that we're going to be able to read. And at the end of the presentation, we'll take a few minutes to answer any of the questions that we didn't already address. So who is Marni and why did we want Marni to speak today? So aside from being our VP of Program, Marni joins us with 2 decades of experience, stemming from her frontline work as a mental health counselor, working in a women's shelter, and continuing in various leadership roles in the homelessness and poverty sector until Veahafta was blessed with her presence in 2017 and has really been a game changer for us in terms of our position in this sector. So welcome to everyone and welcome to Marni, who's joining us today. And thank you, Marni, for joining us today.
Thanks, Brandon. That was quite the intro. Thank you very much.
So like I said, I'm gonna have a few questions that I want to ask you, Marni, and hopefully you'll be able to address a little bit about what is the street needs assessment, what does it say, and sort of how Veahafta responds to the need. So let's open up with that. Like, what is the Toronto Street Needs Assessment?
Sure. So the Toronto Street Needs Assessment is it's something that's done every 3 years. I think this was the 6th time they did it. Now it's composed of 2 parts. It used to be just called the PIT count, which is the point in time count, which was an assessment on a particular night, particular time of the year of gathering the numbers for related to homelessness. So they went and they counted how many people were in shelters. They did those who were living rough on the streets, those in correctional facilities, and so forth, to sort of give a point in time count of how many people are experiencing homelessness at a given time. They expanded that at one point and it included a survey. So there is the point in time count to give an assessment of how many people generally are experiencing homelessness on a given night. And then the survey, which really digs into people's experiences of homelessness, how they got where they are, their demographics, things like that. So the latest one that was done in October 2024. And those results came out in July 2025. So it's conducted by the city and they use it really to feed their strategic planning for the next 5 years. So they'll look at the data and analyze the data. So it's a very, very in-depth report that comes out. They do release also sort of a high-level highlights, but we like to dig into the report and really understand how the data that they get also impacts and feeds the work that we do. So we do a deep dive in that when it comes out.
So what did we find? What's new from this last assessment? Any surprises you want to talk about?
It's interesting because we knew from what we were seeing on the streets that numbers were going up. But when the report came out, so if we look back at the numbers from the 2021 report, at that point there were just over 7,000 people, but I think it was about 7,300 experiencing homelessness in that point in time count. We were guessing at the numbers where we knew the report was being done. We were kind of waiting. We were guessing at the numbers would hit somewhere around 10. The report came out and it was shocking. It's over 15,000 people on any given night that are experiencing homelessness, and about 1,600 of those are living outdoors. So a significant jump from the last 3 years. A couple of other interesting pieces that came out of it in 2021, they had about 5,500 people move from shelter to housing. In the 2024 numbers, it was about 4,300. So that number dropped. So you had less people moving from shelter to housing. And of the 15,000, about 7,000 were people who experienced homelessness for the first time in that year. So it was a significant amount of new people coming into the system as well.
So this is a huge influx. This is a lot more people, double the people. Uh, who are these new people?
So there's a lot of stuff in the demographics. The most interesting piece to us and what we've seen in the work that we're doing is there's a huge influx of refugees and newcomers. We kind of knew it would happen. If you look back, we watched the trends. So in 2018, the numbers were pretty high. I think they were sitting around 8,000 people in the system at a given time. In 2021, they dropped to just over 7,000, but our borders were closed. And so we sort of knew on the surface, it looked like, oh, homelessness is going down from the last 3 years, but we knew the borders were closed and we had seen the trend starting with refugees and newcomers in 2018. So we knew once they opened the borders that the landscape would change drastically, which is exactly what it did. So if you look at the numbers and Kayla, I'm sorry, we do have some slides that I think I'm supposed to be covering. Kayla, I think that's on you. Thank you. Um, we'll see if it loads. Yeah, so if we look back in 2021, it was about 681 people, refugees in the shelter system, and in 2024, it was 4,700. So huge, huge jump there. Refugee claimants were 13% of our numbers in 2021, up to 49%. So you can see just that's a huge part of the shift. There is a chart in the street needs assessment for anyone who's interested to dive in deep and actually read through the whole thing. There is one graph that shows in the shelter system, non-refugee numbers, which stay steady sort of across from 2021 till 2024. But then the refugee numbers, it's a huge spike of a line that goes up. So that's where a lot of your new people into the system are coming from. They make up about 54% of those who are in city administered spaces, and specifically in family shelters, even more, about 60% of those in family shelters.
So with these numbers, I mean, I haven't heard, and I think a lot of people know, we haven't seen a lot of new shelters. There certainly are new shelters popping up, but we haven't seen what I think is enough to fill this capacity. So what do shelters have this sort of capacity?
No, no, we don't have the capacity. The number of shelter beds in the city ranges from about 9 to 10,000 at any given point, because we do have some warming centers that open up during the winter and such. But again, even 9 to 10,000, when you have 15,000 people experiencing homelessness on a given night, there's simply not enough space. When they surveyed individuals, they asked if people had trouble finding shelter space. Over half of them at some point in the year had attempted to get shelter space and could not. Specifically, there's an even higher rate for those who are experiencing sort of health concerns, mental health concerns. The numbers were higher of struggles to find shelter space. Yeah, the system, it's just not built for the influx that we've been getting. So shelters have kind of become absorption centers for refugees and newcomers. in terms of their needs are very different, but they're landing in the shelter system, and the shelter system is having to try to shift and try to meet those needs. And it's a struggle because they weren't built to do that.
Okay, so let's step back a little further and let's talk about homelessness and what the street needs assessment is saying about what does homelessness um, says today. Like, what are the top cited reasons why someone is currently unhoused and homeless?
Sure. So if you look at the results, the top reason that people give is they don't have enough income. Um, I think, Kayla, there might be a slide on this. So the top reason is there's not enough income, and there's a significant gap between income that people have coming in, those who are receiving government assistance, and the cost. That's what I'm looking for. Thank you. And the cost of rent. So you can see the ODSP shelter allowance and the OW shelter allowance. So that's the government assistance programs compared to what the cost of rent actually is. So if you look at someone who's on social assistance, the annual income is just over $10,000 a year. And if you look at the price of housing in Toronto, you're not going to find any kind of housing that you can afford if your income is $10,000 a year. What was sort of interesting is that, so that was the top reason that people cited for why they were now experiencing homelessness. The second one was leaving a community or relocating. So that's where you get a lot of the newcomer pieces coming in. But the third most recent, the piece within the financial piece here that I thought was really interesting is that ODSP and OW are sort of your top incomes for those who are experiencing homelessness. But the third most frequently reported source of income was part-time employment. It wasn't supports by families or things like that. It was part-time employment. A lot of the people that we encounter are working, but they're still in the shelters, or they're still, in encampments because they just can't afford housing with the rates of housing. I remember being out sometime last year and chatting with someone at one of the shelters who has a full-time job. He has a full-time job and he was living in the shelter because he just wasn't making enough. Thanks, Kayla. Yeah, so there's your top reasons for that people cited for how they became homeless, and it's income.
So, so that's why people are actively homelessness. But who are these people? Has it changed since the last time the street needs assessment has come out?
There's been some shift. So there's some communities that sort of year after year, unfortunately, pop up in the thanks, Kayla, in the report that are overrepresented. So one is Indigenous community. So the Indigenous community, about 3% of Toronto's population identify as Indigenous, but about 9% of those experiencing homelessness identify as Indigenous. You see similar things in the racialized community. Again, 56% of the Toronto population identifies as racialized. 77% of those that were surveyed through the street needs assessment identify as such. So there's certain groups that are highly overrepresented in the street needs assessment. LGBTQ isn't one that had a significant shift. So it pretty much doubled those who those who identify as part of the to us LGBTQ plus community doubled from the 2021 assessment to the 2024 assessment. The other piece that's not on here, it's not about an overrepresentation, but just as an example as to how this data speaks to us in particular in the type of work that we do, there is a piece in there around gender. And when I started over 8 years ago, I would say through MJRH, through our Mobile Jewish Response to Homelessness Street Outreach Program, we were seeing about 75% male and about 25% female. There's been a huge shift. So the data in the 2024 Street Needs Assessment showed that about 41% of those experiencing homelessness are female, and for those who are living outdoors, it's about 30%. So it's a significant increase in the last you know, definitely since the last street needs assessment, but for sure since I've started with the organization. And so it shifts a little bit of the way we do the work and the resources that we need to know about to support individuals and the donations that we need to support individuals too. So that was sort of an interesting shift for us to note internally as a staff that helps drive the work that we do.
So we, of course, like many people who are downtown, has seen over the last few years, many different encampments pop up, many different locations sort of become hotbeds for unhoused individuals. So where does the street needs assessment stay today? Are things most concentrated?
So we do have a slide on this, just a map, but about 75% of the individuals are in the Toronto East York area, which really it encompasses the downtown core. It's most of where we go with our downtown van, with the other spaces having about 5 to 12%. Yeah, there's your number. So it is a breakdown. I know it's sort of hard to see there, but it's a breakdown of the top number being sort of the numbers and the bottom number being that percentage of outdoor homelessness. So this is specific to outdoor homelessness. Um, so yeah, the bulk is really in that Toronto and East York, that downtown core area. Again, you see a shift and different trends coming. So this is pretty similar to what we were seeing in the 2018 survey. In the 2021 COVID, people were sort of moving out of the downtown core. So you saw people sort of move to the outskirts areas, and now they're all coming back to the downtown core. That's where the bulk of services tend to be.
So let's, in a theory, let's go off books in a sense. Let's get away from the street needs assessment for a second. We go out on the van. Our van goes out daily. We have been doing this for a very long time, over 25 years. The average van has been serving our population. So today, given what we're reading and we're reporting through the street needs assessment, would you and your team say it's consistent to what we're seeing? Is there anything anecdotal you would want to add to this?
I think demographically it's consistent with what we're seeing. And again, the numbers of where people are and the types of people that we're encountering. One of the things that it does, the street needs assessment doesn't really dig into much, is what we're seeing in terms of drug use on the streets. So we are definitely over the last 8 years, it's a different landscape than when I started. Significantly more drug use, again, specifically in the downtown core. And now with the closures of a lot of the safe ejection sites, a lot of overdoses. So we get daily shift reports from our staff. And in the past, it might have been like once every couple of months that our staff were reporting that there was an incident that they had to administer naloxone. It's probably close to once a week now. It's crazy the change in sort of that space and what our staff are experiencing on those shifts. The other thing, in terms of, I don't know that it's specific to the street needs assessment, but it's a way that we've shifted our work in the last number of years. It does relate to that income and cost of housing piece. Prior to the last number of years, our focus really was on those who are in the encampments, those who are living rough. We absolutely still do that. But the launch of the second van a few years back to North York and Scarborough area, it's a bit of a different landscape, and we find we're serving a lot of low income areas. So we are serving people who are housed in some of those spaces, but we also know that these are people who are having to choose between I can pay my rent or I can buy food, but I can't do both. And so we step in there almost as like a homelessness prevention piece. If we can help out with that food piece here and there, so that you can pay your rent, we're going to do that.
So does the street needs assessment, does it make any suggestions or provide solutions to prevent the growing rate? What is its recommendations?
So it really is a data report. It doesn't give specific recommendations. It highlights, the concerns and the areas that have to be addressed, but it's not meant to give answers. It really is meant to be used as a resource. Again, when the city comes together to do their strategic planning, this is what they go to as a resource. If you look at those surveyed, one of the questions they ask is, what could have prevented or ended your homelessness? And the top answer by far is rent geared to income housing, subsidized housing. So if I could afford housing, that would be the first and foremost solution. Interestingly enough, the next two, again, that was the answer by far, but the second answer was um, information or advice about rental and legal rights. So there are a lot of people who are evicted for, various reasons that they don't quite understand. They don't know what their rights are. They don't know that maybe it's being done unfairly. And so education about those rights is important. And the third most cited piece that they say would have helped to prevent homelessness is support to reach educational or employment goals, which was kind of nice to see because that's really what we do in our other programs. I know we're here talking about the van today, but we do have life skills, personal development, pre-employment skills training programs that do exactly that. And we're really focused on helping people to meet those education and employment goals. So when I read that, I was like, oh, well, that's good. We're definitely addressing those needs. So that was interesting to see in that report.
So I know it's actually a good segue into my next question, which is so if it, the government's through the city's recommendations, we know that housing is a very challenging issue that the government in various ways are trying to tackle. But what maybe share a little bit about like what's our approach today? What are we doing, and what is working for us, and has it changed in the last few years?
That was a lot of questions, Brandon.
Well, one at a time. Like it's really like what's our approach? What are we
know.
doing, and has it changed?
Yeah. Our approach is really unique, I find. It's very individualized. It is, um, we look at the issues of homelessness or even broader of poverty. It's not just that someone needs a roof over their heads. It's not just that someone needs a job. And we'll get that question sometimes, like, why they should just go and get jobs. That's just what they should do. We recognize that um, in order for someone to be successful in keeping housing or keeping a job, there are so many other pieces that need to exist to lead to sort of long-term stability. So if we just go give someone a job, or if we just put a roof over their heads, it's going to become a revolving door. And we've seen that before. There's the housing first model, which is the concept that first and foremost, you get a roof over someone's head. And then there's supports that are needed, which is great. And there's a lot of great research behind that model. But some people have taken that to be housing first, give someone housing, and they're good, all done. We know that people need more than that. So in our pre-employment skills training programs, we do a lot of building up people's um, sense of self, their self-confidence. We do hard skills like teaching them time management and organizational skills, all of these sort of life skills that need to exist so that when you hit a bump along the road, because you are going to hit a bump along the road, we all do, that people can pick themselves back up. If you don't have that, then you're going to have people lose their housing. You're going to have people who can't keep a job long term, and they're going to keep coming back in your doors. So we really look at things holistically. We really want to provide individualized support based on people's specific needs, both practical supports and emotional supports, and in order to help people achieve that long-term stability and long-term independence. And it shows in the numbers. We track our data. We're very data focused in the work that we do, and we see that our outcomes for those in our programs is about a 96% positive outcome rate, that they've achieved the goals that they've set for themselves and that we've helped them towards, which is phenomenal. It's about it, across organizations in general. Typically, the target is about 75%, so we are by far exceeding that, which is exciting. I think we do great work.
Can you just give a quick snapshot in like a couple lines what the van looks like? Like tell me what a shift looks like. And like when we talk about giving referrals and essential need filling essential needs, what is that? Just give us like a quick
Sure.
high level of like what is the van today?
What is the van today? The van is no longer a minivan. If you haven't been on in the last number of years, anyone listening, if you like to volunteer, it's no longer a minivan. So we have two Sprinter vans. They're fully decked out with shelving so that we can bring the supplies that we need to clients. So we go to various stops, I'd say anywhere between 6 to 10 spots, depending on the night and the locations. It can be encampments, it can be shelters, it can be low income areas, and we hop out. We give hot food that's cooked by interns in our kitchen, clothing, hygiene supplies. The staff provide harm reduction kits to those who need. And it really is whatever someone needs. We chat with people, we get to know their needs, we get to know their experiences. What do you need today? Do you need some clothing? Do you need some food? Um, and for those who are ready and willing and say, you know what, I really need some supports. I need to be connected to a detox center, or I need help finding housing, or I need a counselor to speak to, or I have a health problem. Our outreach workers work with them to make referrals to organizations, us internally, if we have the right service for them. If we don't have the right service for them, then outside organizations that can help them with whatever those particular needs happen to be. Can I answer your question?
Yeah, I think so. Do you have a sense offhand? I know I didn't ask you this in advance, but like how many referrals we're giving out these days, and like what
Oh,
kind of
I can
referrals
check
are
the
kind of the
numbers. It
referrals?
changes month to month, and I've seen months where it's like 5 referrals, and I've seen months where it's 80 referrals. Um, what are the types of referrals? Mental health services, addiction services, a lot of internal too. So we get referral services into our case management services. Um, I can think of clients who've been referred off of the van to our internship programs, which has been great. Um,
Do you want to do you want to
yeah.
share a couple
Do you want me to
words
talk about them?
about Ross recently? Because I think that's really exciting and it really can demonstrate how this
Did the
referral service
newsletter
can.
come out with it yet? I didn't want to,
You're all going to get the email later. Don't worry.
everyone's gonna get the email. Yeah, we do have a client that we interviewed recently who we started working with him off the van, and he was ready to get back on his feet and ready for supports and interested in the food service industry, which we have a great program for. So he was referred into Recipe for Success, which is our program in our commercial kitchen, where we train people who are looking to get back on their feet, who are looking to work towards employment, specifically in the food service industry, and we train them. So we train them in our kitchen. They work with our phenomenal chef, Kumar. We have volunteers who work alongside them as well, and they together all prep the food that goes out on the van. So it's sort of the programs all support one another, which is really lovely. And he graduated that program. He had the support of a case manager while he was here. He had the support of our employment services as well. And he has recently gotten a full-time job. So that was our news just a few weeks ago. And we were so, so excited for him. And he's really happy. And it's great. Yeah.
So almost everyone in this room are generous supporters to Veahafta, and a lot of them for many years in different ways. What if they want to do more? What can someone do today to help be part of the solution?
Well, Brandon, in your role, I'll say that you can always donate.
Always donate.
But in my role, I will say you can always volunteer. We have a slew of volunteer opportunities on the van. If you haven't been on, please sign up. It's a phenomenal experience. As I said, in our kitchen, there's volunteer opportunities. We have a similar internship program in our commercial warehouse. You can volunteer. You can make sandwiches and baked goods at home. There's lots you can do. Um, I do want to speak to in terms of supporting the individuals that we serve through MJRH. One of the best things you can do, because I get this question often, like I'm walking down Toronto and I see people and what can I do? And I don't know if I want to give money. I said, give a smile, have a conversation, ask how their day is. You are often the only person to do that in that day for that individual. I'll tell a story. It's from a number of years ago, but I want to tell this story. I was downtown with my daughter. She was maybe 7 or 8 years old. We were going to an event and we saw a gentleman sitting outside. He had his baseball cap out there, and my daughter said, Can I give something? I said, sure, of course. So she goes and puts something in the hat, and he looks up and he thanks her, and she felt all good about herself. We went into the event. We came out of the event and he was still there, and he saw her and, how are you? How was it? And she was like, he remembered me. How I like there were hundreds of people that went in and he remembered me. And I told her, because you stopped and you acknowledged and you recognized that this is a human being and with dignity and you treated him with respect. And so that in and of itself makes all the difference. It makes all the difference to someone. And often when we're seeing people at 9, 10 o'clock at night, we're the first people that they're speaking to in a day. We're the first people to acknowledge them in a day. So that's a huge piece. If you can even just do that and acknowledge people and help them to not feel invisible, and feel seen and feel respected and provide them with dignity, it makes all the difference.
So that's my question. I'm going to open the floor a little bit now. I see that some of the Q&A has started to go up, but I welcome you all. No question's a bad question. Please, this is your opportunity to speak to Marni to understand, from the source what's going on here. And I think we're going to take away this Q&A. Yeah. And am I
I could read the
I think
question.
Atara is.
There has been one question so far. Well, it's a one question, but two parts. So, he was asking, has any thought been given to working with EQ Home, if I'm pronouncing that right? They provide affordable housing to clients in Toronto. So he's wondering if we work with them to get our clients housing, and also wants to know if we work with governments to raise the minimum wage.
So we don't work with EcuHome right now, but I will look into that. I think it sounds great. Oh, here, Emily. See, it's a good thing we have our case managers here. So Emily here is one of our case managers. She has worked with them. So it would be one of the referral organizations, I guess, that we reach out to. Thank you, Emily. I'm glad you're here. In terms of working with governments, we don't do our own advocacy piece. It's really not the expertise of what we do, but we work with other organizations who do the advocacy work, and we help support it however we can. But we don't lead those initiatives. We're part of the Toronto Alliance to End Homelessness, so a lot of that is done sort of a little broader with the support of a lot of organizations coming together. So that's how we get involved in that kind of work.
And I would say one of the things we will help with clientele, particularly on the outreach band, is if they're not currently accessing government supports like Ontario Works or Ontario Disabilities, we will work with them to get them registered if they can receive that support, or in general, whatever other supports we can offer them to help build that financial stability.
I am just going to throw out too, because the question came up about EcuHome and Emily messaged me on here. We do have a number of our case managers here. And so I'm going to do a little shout out to them. So our case managers work one-on-one with our clients to help address those individual challenges and supports. Emily in particular, who answered that question, is trained in specifically housing supports and has a lot of expertise in that area. So our case managers sort of each have their areas of expertise, and so they draw on each other in terms of like, I have this client who has these challenges, and oh, I know some really good resources. So there's a lot of great resource sharing that happens that way too. So I might call on them if a question comes up that I don't know the answer to. No other questions?
Seeing if there anyone else had anything they wanted to ask or learn about. By all means, to the other people in the room on our team, our many outreach worker and case managers and other staff, if there's anything you wanted to share that you felt like we didn't share in our interpretation of the street needs assessment or the landscape, I welcome you to put up a hand and we can pop you into our conversation.
And anyone who's on who is really interested in this data, I mean, it's available. It's the city hosts it on their site as well as all of the old ones too. So if you're, a data nerd and want to jump into that, it's a lot of interesting reading in there.
Celia, you have a question, it looks like. I think we can unmute you. Hi, Celia.
Hi. I'm not sure where I saw this, and I'm trying to find it, but I think I saw in the news today that the City of Toronto is planning to increase the number of shelter spaces by several thousand. Have you heard this at all? In other
Yeah,
words,
so
they're
there's
going to be building some new buildings.
Yeah, they're building some new buildings. So that is in the works. There has been pushback from certain communities about it. So there's still a lot of hurdles to overcome. But yes, those are in process. I think the challenge is like new shelter space is great. We need to put people somewhere so that they're not sleeping, on a grate on the sidewalk. But it's not a long-term solution.
I agree. I agree.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think we're going to come to the end of this conversation. So firstly, thank you to everyone here who joined us and everyone who continues to support us in all the different wonderful ways. Oh, Jenny,
Jenny's
what's
got her
up?
hand up.
Sorry, we have another question in the
Oh, sorry, I didn't see
queue.
it at the bottom there.
We have
Go
a
for it.
couple. We have a couple minutes.
Yeah, please.
Within the
no problem.
so we have a question from Earl. Within the racialized grouping, how is that broken down?
I can bring
Maybe
up
Kayla,
that
you want to?
data.
Do we have that data on a slide that we've prepared?
Not so specifically, but I have it. I have the street needs assessment pulled up. So I can jump to it. Just let me get it for you.
Okay.
I will, as I'm finding the chart for you, I will share that the bulk of it, like probably about half of it, is people who identify specifically as Black. Here, this is the chart. Can I share? Am I able to share my screen?
Should be.
Let me find the right one. Here it is. So this is the this is the breakdown. Oh, is that sharing?
Yes.
Yes. So this was the racial question. So about 46% of all people identified as Black. Then there's Black African, then Black African, and then there's sort of the breakdown of different things. So the bulk in that number is those who identify as Black. And again, they parse it a million different ways in the street needs assessment, but that's the sort of the quick snapshot of it. Did that answer it for you, Earl?
So,
Did Carrie raise her hand? I saw Carrie's hand.
and I saw, I'm hearing beeps and bops. All right. So,
Wait, I was going to just pop in and just mention that the number of individuals who are identifying as African Black reflects a very large influx of refugees from African countries. And we see that reflected in the number of folks who are who identify as African Black who are in our programs. So in our pre-employment programs, we see the same thing reflected, where 81% of the folks in our programs last year were identified as African Black and are coming from an African and English-speaking African country.
Yeah, and just to add to that, so if you pull at the data a little bit, of those who responded within a racialized community, 63%, so almost 2/3 of those who are from a racialized community, reported that they came here as refugees.
So in closing, I welcome you all to firstly keep supporting us, volunteer, raise the awareness, be part of the suggestions that we put forward. Thank you for the time. We are going to try to do more of these around different subjects that are really face the barriers that our participants, our clients face. Things like employment challenges, food security, refugee community challenges, settlements, or like those type of subjects. So I wanted to remind you guys that you will get more invitations like this, and I do welcome you to join us for future conversation. And aside from that, also, as I said at the beginning of the presentation, it's World Homeless Day today. So you're welcome to look out your windows, walk outside, look at the CN Tower, and think about the work you're supporting as you see the colors on the CN Tower. And if you're up to it, snap a photo and share it so we can share it forward on our social media. So again, thank you, everyone. Thank you to Marni for joining us and sharing your excellence and your knowledge. It really is amazing, everything you got in that brain of yours. And everyone
Thank you to
enjoy
you
the
too,
rest.
Brandon.
I'm just here to talk. And everyone, thank you for coming. Enjoy your Thanksgiving weekends. Take care.